Welcome back. I'm speaking with Chef Laurie Gauginb about vitamins in our fruits and vegetables, and how we handle them when we're cooking and preparing them makes a huge difference in retaining nutrients. So we were just talking about steaming, and much retains almost 100% of the nutrients as opposed to boiling. And I wanted to know about stir frying. What do you know about what percentage is lost there?
Well, I don't have an exact figure for that, but I can tell you that those water-soluble vitamins are very vulnerable to heat as well as water, like I mentioned earlier. So when you stir-fry vegetables, you want to make sure that they're tender crisp, that they're not overcooked. And that's the main thing you have to be concerned with. And limiting the exposure to water, of course, but the stir-frying... just don't overcook. That's when you start to lose vegetables. And here's another tip also. If you have something that you've cooked up and you have leftovers, try not to reheat it multiple times or reheat it at high temperatures, because in effect you're cooking the dish twice, and therefore you're losing more vitamins every time you reheat. So that's something that's helpful for people to know.
Yeah, that is helpful. Now, what do you think about microwaving?
Microwaving is very interesting because people have very varying opinions about the health aspects of putting foods in the microwave. There was actually a study, I believe it was in 2006, where scientists took 20 different vegetables and they exposed them to 6 different cooking methods to figure out which cooking methods retained or boosted antioxidant levels. Now, this isn't vitamins, this is antioxidants. And they found that microwaving was one of the top 3 ways to retain or boost antioxidant levels.
That's
overall.
Surprising.
That's very surprising. Yeah, so microwave, I personally do not cook in the microwave.
Yeah, I don't
use that
either. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that was fascinating for me because I just assumed that all the antioxidants would just be kaput after a while.
So they didn't check the vitamin levels, though?
No, not in this particular study.
Interesting. Now, some vitamins deteriorate in air and light. So which of those are those are different than the water-soluble ones? These are another kind of vitamins that deteriorate in air and light.
Yeah, there are more. First of all, the vitamin that deteriorates in light is very easy to remember. This one, because it's only one. It's B2, which is riboflavin. That's found in vegetables and fruits like pumpkins, mushrooms, and watercress. Now, when it comes to air, there's a lot more vitamins that are vulnerable to exposure to air. Those include the water-soluble vitamins that we've been talking about, as well as vitamin A, vitamin E, and vitamin K. So there are quite a few vitamins that really should not, vitamins that really suffer when they're exposed to excess amounts of atmospheric air once they're picked from the crops.
So how should we be storing these types of vegetables?
Yeah, that's a good question. Basically, you want to store them in a closed container because you want to limit the exposure to air. For example, here's another little anecdote for you. Spinach, there was a study done with spinach, and when spinach was kept in an open container, it lost 10% of its vitamin C every day.
Wow.
Yeah, so...
And when you say open container, you mean open container in your refrigerator. You're not just talking about leaving it out.
No. It wouldn't have lasted very long. But yeah, in the refrigerator. Now, spinach is something that most people do wrap up because it's so loose. You wouldn't just have a handful of spinach and throw it in the crisper. But even things like larger items that you might usually not think about wrapping, such as cauliflower, broccoli, that sort of thing, you should definitely cover them in whatever way you like. There are bio bags, which are wonderful. Any sort of, glass or plastic, if you wish, container that has a lid on it is perfect. So even, just putting it directly into your salad crisper is not quite doing the job.
Really?
Yeah.
Because there's too much air.
Yeah, there's still air that gets in there, so you want to make it as airtight as possible. So something with a lid or a bag where you can tie and cut off the air source. That's very helpful.
I see. I would have thought it would get moldy somehow, or
No, I do this all the time. I have that. I always wrap my vegetables and then I put them into the salad crisper, and they last very well.
And what do you wrap them in?
I usually have the bio bags. Those work really well. I just make a quick knot in them, and then they obviously they biodegrade, but they last for a pretty long time because I shop pretty frequently.
Right. So the bio bags they're a plastic though. They're like a biodegradable plastic.
Well, it's
right?
made from corn usually, yeah. And I also use paper bags.
You do?
Because basically whatever I get at the farmer's market, the one I go to the Ferry Plaza very often, and they've phased out plastic bags, so they have bio bags or they have paper bags. So either one of those, I just make sure they're tightly wrapped up and put them in my fridge that way.
Now, a raw food chef told me this is what she does. She buys these mesh bags, like cotton mesh bags, and she soaks them in water, which doesn't sound like what you're recommending at all. And she wraps she'll have the bag that's moist, and then she'll put the fruits or vegetables inside this moist bag.
Well, I can definitely see why she would want to do that from a culinary standpoint, because it prevents the fruits and vegetables from dehydrating, so they have a lot of crispness, like celery. Some people, I know when I was a kid, my mom used to have celery and carrot sticks. And to keep them crisp, she used to put them into a glass of water and keep them in the fridge. So that's kind of, I think, the same thing that the chef was trying to accomplish. You keep the crispness. But what she's doing isn't all bad, because she's not doing like what my mom did and put it in a glass of water.
Right.
This is something that, the mesh that sheds a lot of the water that it was exposed to. So it's only going to retain a little bit of the water. So it's an okay option. I wouldn't leave it there for a long period of time.
Yeah, the thing I couldn't figure out what I had wrapped in there, and I don't know. It just I sort of like to see what I have stored away. Otherwise, and again, if it's in brown paper. Well, so what do you think about leaving, like washing? Well, okay, do you wash your fruits and vegetables before you put them in the fridge? I guess that's my question. Or
No.
wipe them down? You don't?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
I just don't find it necessary because, I don't know, it's just not something I do. One thing I do just to save time, sometimes I'll wash my greens. Like if I have Swiss chard or something, I'll take out the stems and chop the leaves up and give them a good washing, just because it's easier for me to come home from work and cooking for other people all day, and it's easy for me to just do a quick saute with those. But other than that, other than greens, I don't wash ahead of time.
And so you store them in bio bags, and you can sort of see through, because they're opaque or they're kind of white, aren't they?
They're green.
Oh, those are the green
Yeah.
bio bags. Okay. So you can sort of recognize what's in there, or do you have to go? Yeah, you can.
Well, yeah. I mean, I just buy enough for what I'm going to be able to eat until the next market day. So I don't know. I just keep kind of a mental inventory of what I have. But I'm a very visual person, so sometimes I do have to peek and see.
So how can home cooks limit how much air and light, aside from, well, getting things in the fridge pretty quickly home from the store? What do you recommend?
Well, first of all, when you're buying produce, you want to buy the freshest possible, and that's kind of a given, especially in this part of the country where we have so much abundance of fresh produce. But basically, if you shop at the farmer's market, that food has been in transit for a lot less time than the food that's in the supermarket, for example. And another thing I want to bring up is frozen.
Oh, yeah. I was going to ask you about frozen food. What do you think about that? Because I understand it's flash frozen.
Yes.
And so you think that's a good thing?
It is. I mean, if you are given the choice of either semi-fresh looking produce at a conventional supermarket or something that's frozen, a lot of times frozen would be the better option because they're the produce is picked when it's very ripe, and it's immediately processed. There's no downtime because, as you probably know, the fruits and vegetables that arrive in the regular supermarkets can be in transit for several weeks before they get to us.
Right. And then they're sitting on the shelves, too.
Yeah, and then they're sitting in our refrigerators before we eat them.
Yeah. So, and then you have to think about how to cook the frozen food, too. I mean, so what's the best way to do that?
To limit exposure to air?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there are a couple different things, different tips I can give. First of all, you can cook with a lid. If you're going to be cooking something for a prolonged period of time, if you're doing a quick stir fry or something, I really wouldn't worry about air exposure. But if you're doing like a long braise where part of the meat or vegetables are exposed to the air, that they're not completely submerged in the liquid, I would definitely opt to use a lid or with steaming, which you probably would anyway. But the other thing is if you're cooking with a soup or something that has a lot of broth or a curry or something, that's a wonderful way to limit exposure to air because the food is submerged. So,
although you're getting the water, though. So
you are, but you're going to be ingesting that water.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, so you're not losing any vitamins because they dissolve in that water, and then you're going to be eating it in the form of a sauce or a soup.
Brilliant. Now, do you save your steamed vegetable water and use it, reuse it?
No, I don't. I can't think of.
I mean, to use it as in a stock or to just drink it. I don't know. I just thought it seemed like a lot of vitamins would be going in there. Although you said steaming there's not a lot that leaches out into the water. But that's a good point. I mean, there is some vitamin content in there, and it does get infused with some of the flavors of whatever you're steaming. So that's a good idea. I'd have to try it. Okay, good. Well, it looks like we're out of time, and this has been really fascinating, Laurie.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and so if people want more information, where can they find you?
I'm at lauriegauginb.com. That's spelled LaurieGauguin.com. And you can sign up for my newsletter. There's a few clicks, a few buttons there for that, and you can read more about my business.
Because you teach classes and you give you work and help people in their homes to get healthy and stay healthy and stay on special diets and
I provide personal chef services, and I also provide coaching for people who want to do it themselves.
Great. Well, thanks.
Thank you so much.
And thanks so much for listening today. For podcasts and more information on this show, visit yoursupernaturallife.com. You can also download the show on iTunes. And you can find my book, Supernatural Home, on Amazon or on my website, supernaturalmom.com. And if you type in supernaturalmom.com/free gift, you can download a free 20-question quiz from my book that will help you determine where, when, and how you are unwittingly being exposed to dangerous chemicals from everyday products in your home. Plus, you'll get tips on ways to have a super healthy home. We'll see you here next week. I'm Beth Greer.